Okay, hello and welcome to another video. Physique update, new high weigh-in here of 228 pounds. It's the most I've ever weighed in my gosh dang life. Obviously, I'm carrying a little bit of extra fluff. We're not looking super sharp and ripped. You can tell me what you think my body fat percentage is in the comments below. I think somewhere between 15 to 20. Some people seem to think I could be more than 20% body fat, but oblique definition, I don't know. Anyways, you tell me what you think. Regardless, we're a little fluffier than, my kind of like goal form is, which brings about the topic of bulking, adding additional fat, pounding the calories in order to build muscle mass. My personal take is that I think for a specific reason, the general public, the view of bulking is that it's overhyped in that most people think it produces more results than it does. Okay, bear with me if you disagree. At the end, you can still disagree, but just entertain this thought. Most of the people that have the most reach with gaining muscle, bodybuilding in general, are professional bodybuilders, people getting on stage, getting down to extremely low percentages. This is where the majority of the influence around training for muscle gain has came from in terms of pop culture. Not necessarily from a scientific realm, but in terms of popularized individuals who then disseminate knowledge and ideas and theories on how to train. All of these people, the majority of them, getting down to 5% body fat or lower or something like that to get on stage. Then, when they're post-show, they bulk up relatively from 5% up to 10%, maybe up to 15%, maybe even beyond, who knows. Generally, though, most bodybuilders, historically, if you kind of follow their content, I would say most of them are max 15% body fat in their off seasons. But they've added fat or bulked to go from, let's just estimate, around 5% body fat. If they're absolutely peeled on stage for a show, you're not going to gain muscle in that low of a body fat percentage. Your body's in a depleted state. It's going to be difficult to add substantial amount of mass, even function. I've never been at that level, but anybody that has, they're in a very depleted, suboptimal for muscle gain state. They're just doing it to show off and look as ripped for a short period of time as possible to try to win the medal. So I say all that to make the point that I think bulking has been popularized because of that reason. If you're single digit body fat, there's a pretty good case to be made that if you want to put on substantial mass, you are going to need to increase your calories and take on a little bit more body fat to create an environment where you don't have a governor or a restriction on your ability to grow. If you then translate that to the general population, most people are already 15% body fat and up. So is it necessary to put on additional fat to gain muscle? I speculate no. I think it's very minimal, the additional benefit that it has. In my opinion, the training stimulus that you put on your body in the gym, given adequate recovery and not necessarily a caloric deficit, proper sleep, good nutrition, that's going to support your muscle growth. I don't think you're going to force feed additional muscle growth by adding additional fat. Just food for thought, no pun intended. Taking it another step further, if you go into a significant surplus for, let's say, 4 months, and you get up to 20-25% body fat, assuming that you want to show off the muscle that you've built underneath the fat later, you're going to have to go into a significant deficit for 2, 3, 4 months. And when you're in a significant deficit, I think most of us agree that that's not a state that's super conducive for adding muscle. So every month that you're in that surplus, there's going to be a month on the other end where you're in a deficit. So that month of each month that you're in a surplus has to outperform the 2 months total, 1 month in a surplus, 1 month in a deficit, than just a slight surplus or kind of maintenance calories would. If you bulked for 4 months and then cut for 4 months, or you just main gained or did like a really slight bulk, small calorie surplus, your weight's going up like a pound a month maximum, over 8 months versus like hammering the calories, gaining 20 pounds of body weight, and how much of that is fat, who knows. Those 4 months, you have to get as much or more growth during your bulking phase in 4 months than you would in 8 months at a really slight bulk or main gaining. So that's how you should think about it. If you still believe that you can outperform 8 months of training with just kind of maintenance calories, trying to add mass, given that you're at least like 12, 15% body fat already, you're not in a depleted state. If you still think that adding that additional calories and getting up to 20%, 25% plus 4 months of that will outperform 8 months of training at a, more maintenance type of calories, then that's your decision. And you could still go ahead and do that. But I think that's the way that we should think about it. And I think most people just assume that they need to go into a significant bulk when it may not be necessary if you're already 18% body fat. You should probably be trying to just maintain your body. You don't need to incur additional body fat. And in my opinion, I've seen the most substantial progress I see at any point in time seems to be more correlated with the training stimulus or my sleep. Not necessarily just pounding extra calories or eating less calories. I feel like there's been times where I'm eating, maintenance calories and I'm making gains. And there's been times where I'm in a caloric surplus and I don't appear to be gaining more muscle growth. Obviously, it's all, that's an anecdote and it's perceptive, but that's some food for thought around bulking that will hopefully, help you guys to make some more growth. But let's look into and with my physique, I am intending, to probably be 10 pounds of fat less than I am right now. So if I'm 228, if I get down to 218, which is a pretty solid mass still, solid amount of mass at 6'1", I've never been a super heavy person, kind of got longer legs and longer arms and just not like a huge rib cage. People always think I weigh more than I actually do. Just looking at me, I'm just not like a super dense, heavy guy. So to be 228 for me is like, this is pretty serious weight, at least by my standards. So if I can drop, I'm still in a massing phase for the next 4 weeks. If I could gain another 2 pounds of muscle, that would be amazing. That's probably very ambitious. Maybe I put 1 on. Who knows? Let's think optimistically. Let's go for 2. If I get up to 230 and then cut 10 pounds of fat and be 220, hopefully with complete defined six-pack, that would be pretty freaking awesome. Oi, Mickey, 6110. This is going to be in response to my previous video where I was responding to your comments. So it's a little context. You're the man! ! Thank you so much for taking the time to respond to my questions and giving some really good advice. Flexing my wrists. Last workout took some stress off of them in regards to doing bicep curls. I think if you're loading heavy weight at the beginning of your bicep training and shooting to the progressive overload base sets, a little bit of faster tempo, heavier weight, I think adding some curl into your wrists keeps your wrists in a stronger, safer position, in my opinion. Sounds like warm-up sets are where it's at. I'll definitely do more of them. Also harping on the usefulness of warm-up sets. If you're curious about for more on warm-up sets, you could watch the previous video. Sky Farm 1000, probably not the only one who would love to see a full unedited workout, mobility exercise, and warm-up sets. Okay, I think that would be cool. I need to find probably a private gym. I guess I do have a mic. I could go into the gym and do that. It's a little out of my comfort zone. I did that before in the past. I found it really threw off my workouts to be talking to the mic while training in a public gym. Not that you can't do it, but I just find I get distracted and people are looking at you weird. It does throw me off a little bit. Just making excuses. But okay, we'll keep that in mind. I think there's probably some way to make it happen. Maybe we can get access to a private facility, or maybe sometime in the future here I'll have, a different situation with training and we can do more workouts like that. If a lot of people agree that you'd rather see like a full unedited from the time I step into the gym to the time I leave, mic'd up, walking you through every exact thing I'm doing. If there's others that also would prefer that content over, what I'm doing, just grabbing clips of the sets I do and then doing a voiceover in post after the workout. If a large amount of you would strongly prefer me to try this style of filming, I'll give it a go if there's a significant demand. So you let me know. The Milkman, hey brother, thanks for the kind words. Just did a sick arm workout today while listening to this. Keep up the great work. Hell yeah, brother. Keep growing your pythons. Appreciate your support. Milkman95. Okay, here is the question about arm training. Bob is handsome. You look massively morbidly strong. I'll take it. I was wondering if this arm routine is going to work that I'm doing. So he wants to know if his arm routine will work. 4 sets of alternating curls. Preacher curl with a straight bar. I think those are 2 separate exercises. 4 sets of alternating curls with dumbbells where you do left arm then right arm, I'm assuming. And then preacher curl with the straight bar. And then the third exercise is only the triceps overhead extension. And he goes on to say he's had an injury, some muscle imbalances. Right now, I've been lifting for 1 year and can bench 145 pounds. So he's 1 year into his journey. In the beginning, he was only able to bench a pair of 25-pound dumbbells. So comparatively, maybe 50 pounds of total weight. The dumbbells are less stable. That's maybe about 60 pounds equivalent in barbell pressing terms. So that's a pretty significant improvement to go from the 60 pounds of pressing torque up to 145, and that's how it's going to go in the first year, man. The gains are going to be more plunderous than they ever will in the future. So I made some progress, he says. My goal is 170. I hope I can make it. 170 pound bench press. Took some inspiration from you. Thumbs up emoji, party hat emoji guy. Congrats on hitting 18-inch arms with pure muscle. Thank you, my brother. They're actually at 18.8 now. That last 0.8, it's been a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to put in, so don't forget that, but I appreciate your kind words. So the thing I want to point out here is a good question by Bob is Handsome. But he's asking if this is a good workout, and he gives me 3 exercises that he's doing. And this is a very typical kind of newer to the gym question, and I would have asked the same thing. So if you're watching, Bob, you are handsome, and please take this the right way. But your perspective, you're focusing on the wrong thing. So you could pick any couple exercises, and it doesn't really matter that much. I'm going to tell you what you should focus more of your energy on. But before, I think we should make the point that you should probably do 2 sets, 2 different exercises. If you're going to do 2 different exercises for your biceps, you should be doing 2 different exercises for your triceps. Keep it the same, or at least the same number of sets. If for whatever reason you're going to do 4 sets of alternating curls and 4 sets of preacher curls with a straight bar, and then 4 sets of overhead tricep extensions, great. But keep, roughly speaking, I think it just makes everything easy and simple to do the same amount of volume and same amount of exercises for the biceps and the triceps. There's plenty of exercises you can pick for each muscle, pair them together. Also, in my opinion, you don't have to do this, but I think it's more effective and efficient to superset them, where you pair a bicep exercise with a tricep exercise and you go back and forth. Because a longer rest time, in my experience, produces more growth, and alternating when you hit your biceps and then you take a little rest period, and then you hit your triceps and a rest period. By the time you get back to your next set of biceps, they've had an extended period of rest because obviously they aren't working while the triceps are working. So alternating back and forth allows you to take advantage of a longer rest time than straight sets would, without having to actually use a really, really long rest period. So you can keep busy. So that's the first thing I would note. But the more important point that I'd like to make is that most people focus too much on what exercise to do. People will ask me, you got big arms. What exercise do you do for arms? I'm like, doesn't really matter. Pick a couple, experiment, try a bunch of different movements, and then just find a few that you like the best or that work the best for you. The arms are very simple muscles. You're flexing and extending your elbow joint primarily. It doesn't need to be too complex. Other muscles, there's more going on. The shoulder joint, your chest, your back, it's more complex. There's more to be said about mixing different exercises in for different reasons. For the tris and bis, I used to think, you need to do this exercise for that part of the tricep, this for that part of the bicep. So which exercise do you do? I remember writing down an arm workout plan where it was just all about 9 different exercises to hit all parts, different heads of the bicep and the tricep. And so I've been there, and I really believe that is a misallocation of your energy and focus, and you're going to produce more results from redirecting that to focusing on the stimulus that you create with your arm training, regardless of what exercise you do. Find exercises that work well, that you find you can progress, that feel safe, that you have good connection with in your muscles, and then you want to focus on your intensity. How hard do you push each set to failure? Appropriate amount of warm-up sets, good control of the movement, and then crank that intensity up to get to failure or close. Next thing, how long do I rest in between each set? What rep range am I going to do? How much weight am I using? How many total sets do I do? And then how long do I rest in between each workout? Also, often overlooked factor, what tempo do I utilize while I'm training? If you want more specific guidance on a lot of these structures of how to train. My ARM program will walk you through all of my thoughts in detail about each one of those topics and what I think is the best way to structure your ARM training so that you learn. I try to teach you with a bunch of video lessons that, I'm basically saying all the same things here. So you could just go through my YouTube videos if you don't want to pay. But if you want a specific kind of like structured course, it's going to be a little more convenient to do that. And then there are the specific ARM workouts that I would recommend you go through with the exact structure. If you're like, I don't know exactly how many reps I should do or how I should change my rep range or change my sets or whatever, if you're really new, I think it would be a useful resource to you. But by no means don't think you have to buy it. And you're not going to get growth if you don't. It's not that complex, but you at least need to think more about the stimulus that you put on your muscle. That's the point I'm making, regardless of what exercise you use. Because I could tell you, these are great exercises or these are bad exercises, but we haven't talked at all about what rep range are you using, what intensity are you using, how much weight are you using, are you focusing on progressing the weight, what weight did you start with, like you're mentioning with your bench press, the tempo that you use, how long you rest in between your sets, how many sets you do total, and then what is your frequency, how much do you rest in between workouts. That cocktail, you adjusting those parameters to create a stimulus that produces growth is what you should be thinking of rather than any individual specific exercise. Doesn't mean that the individual exercises aren't also yielding varying benefits depending on how they work for you, and some are definitely superior to others. But most of the value you're going to get is going to come from creating that stimulus, I believe. And I think if you have an effective stimulus, then the exercise you do isn't going to matter as much, in my opinion. Oh my God, we got an invasion here. Moving on, Van Bard Fitness. This gave me a pec pump. Sunglasses emoji, cheers, bro. Hell yeah, dude. Those mommy milkers are looking absolutely juicified. Cam Bird, hey, look who made the cut. Right on, Matt. Keep it up, Limb Lord. Thank you to Cameron Bird. Anybody who wants to follow my Instagram, at the Limb Lord, okay? Only training arms and legs, Limb Lord? I don't know. Got to mix it up. Skid McMarks, I really liked your comment in the previous video about kind of getting negative and cynical in terms of reacting to scientific content. So a response here from you, hell yeah, brother. Right on. Vance 9090. This guy sounds like a big old beast. Cheers, Matt! Exclamation mark. Appreciate the support, and the injury is a mix of things. Turns out, how did the walk go? It's good. Large herniations on the L4, L5, L5S1, chronic sciatica, and some neuropathy issues stemming from concussions from rugby. Should be fine in the future. I hope so too. Unfortunately, no BJJ, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, after 8 years, or blasting heavy DLs and squats. However, the doctor said nothing about getting these pythons back up to 18.5 inches. So Vance previously had 18.5 inch pythons doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and rugby. This is probably not somebody you want to tussle with. That's okay. No worries. So, Vance, I hope that you can continue to recover from your injuries and that having a modified type of workout routine in the future, although seems lame and unexciting, I think you will learn to appreciate once your injuries heal up that, maybe you're not going to squat and deadlift heavy, but maybe you get really into leg pressing or stationary lunging and you start to find the beauty in that and your back can remain healthy. Coming from somebody that has made significant adjustments to my training program to be able to still train, it's obviously a bummer at first, and it's way sweeter when your body works perfectly and you can do any kind of exercise. Hey, buddy. But sometimes that's just not the hand we're dealt, and I still enjoy training in a modified form, so I hope that you find the same thing. Davi Ches, I do need a name change after that. Bro, leave it the way it is, man. You look yoked in your pick. Just keep on rocking. Lewis, Sirius Samante, meant. Great question here. Super useful answers. Thank you. It's not his name. It means seriously in French. Well, there you go. Cheers from France. So I'm guessing your name is Louis or Louis, and then seriousment means serious in French. Enigma, the loyal, dedicated troll, one of a few on the channel. If he squatted, deadlifted, and benched, he could trim the blubber. So this person is fixated on me being extremely fat and overweight. And like I mentioned in the other video, people that take the time to, try to bring you down, what you have to remember is that usually they're very insecure individuals, and they're quite good at trying to find your insecurities because that's the wavelength that they think on. And then they're going to try to make you feel shitty about yourself. And also, they're committed to not improving their own standing in life. So their only avenue to feel better is to try to drag you down. So if you get somebody bullying you or saying negative things, it's not the things they say to you. It's not actually, sometimes there's some truth in it, but it's not actually a reflection of who you are and what your self-worth is. It's more of a reflection on them and the insecurity they feel about themselves. And they've developed an ability to get good at trying to find your insecurities, and they have no interest in actually leveling themselves up to feel better, because humans are a hierarchy and we all feel the positioning of the others around us to varying degrees. Some people are more ambitious, some people are less ambitious, but we're all aware of it to some degree. And, some people take it upon themselves to go, I don't like my life, I want to improve things, I'm going to start taking steps to do stuff. Other people have no interest in improving. So to get relative appreciation in the human hierarchy, they prey on your demise and they try to tear you down and tear people around them. So relatively, they raise up some. So that's something to keep in mind. If somebody says something mean to you or leaves mean comments, it's not really something you should take to heart. And the other thing I would say is if, they always find something else. So like if I'm, when I go into a cut phase and I'm leaner, it'll just switch to something else instead of talking about blubber. And not being able to, so he's smart, right? In the previous video, I'm talking about how I can't train normally. So he's trying to hit on that I'm insecure or going to feel sensitive about the fact that I can't squat, deadlift, or bench, and that I'm in, a bulking phase where I'm a little bit fluffier, right? It's quite transparent once you understand the psychology, and then, I don't know, it just helps you to deal with it and go, okay, this person's just not in a great place, and I'm not really going to take what they say super to heart because I can kind of see why they're doing it. Another negative comment from wild_things. Your arms are just pure blubber, no definition at all. I mean, I don't know. I'm definitely holding on to a little bit more body fat, but I don't know. You guys can comment what you think the body fat percentage is. People will look to discredit you. You're not saying my arms are small. So if you become undeniable in a certain area, it's just foolish, but they're going to try to find your weaknesses. So in some ways, people hating on you is useful because it's like, all right, yeah, my arms could have more definition. And when they are more defined, then what are you going to say? Right? So I think that's the way to think about that. Next person says, your arms look too big. Please stop training them. Love that. Love to hear that. That's a positive comment in my opinion. And cousin Danny, 69. Go Vols. So Tennessee Volunteers. Yeah, judging by your picture. So that's why you don't like the Gators hat. I like that. I can appreciate a little trash talk saying that my hat is ugly as hell, given that you're a Tennessee Volunteers Vols fan. I respect that friendly diss. So that's actually a positive comment. And the comment they left on the previous video I would view as positive, even though you're calling my hat ugly. It's all in good fun. All right, that is it. Thank you for watching. Go out there and make some freaking gains. Have a great day. Peace.